Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. So this is the session that is between you and I, and then lunch. Hopefully, we have some time later for questions. The main purpose here is to give you really an opportunity to share questions, to learn about implementation, deployment of AI into enterprise. So today we'll be talking about the AI next frontier. How can you really take your AI implementation to success? Going through all of these complexities and challenges that happen, and you will see. So a quick intro. Again, my name is Maher. I'm the Senior VP of Engineering at Betterworks. We are an enterprise performance management SaaS. We serve global customers HR tech solutions built on top of their HR information systems. So as you might understand here, the challenge of building AI in a compliance-heavy space with all the sensitive data in there is challenging. Before this, I had other VP CTO positions here in the Silicon Valley. I am currently an ambassador at the AI Accelerator Institute. I'm also a mentor and board of advisor at the University of San Francisco for their strategic AI program. So very quick introduction to Betterworks, because this will set the tone for the rest of the presentation. We're going to use this as a framework to understand how we start thinking about AI. How did we build it? How are we keeping up with all the pace of innovation, all the things that are happening, and how are we serving our customers? So Betterworks is a platform that is, again, building on top of HR. So really building tools for global enterprise customers to help them create manager efficiency, help them with get the best out of their talent and skills, and really manage performance and all of that. And our vision at Betterworks is really to embrace AI, to create these newer, delightful user experiences because of all of the AI capabilities and all the new kind of ways of addressing and figuring out how you serve your customers. AI has been just a huge boost for our product. The other thing is really to connect experiences. So as you can see here, all of these are pillars to what we do, like setting goals, tracking them, creating one-on-ones, doing performance management reviews, doing calibration, succession planning. All of these were verticals in our system. And with AI, we took all of these when we empowered them, but also we built more layers, horizontal layers to connect these experiences. And at the end of the day, also one of the other key additions that AI gave us access to is actionable insights. Because of AI capability into extraction information, finding things and bringing them to the surface for saving you a lot of time when you do performance management. As an example, looking into someone's review, it might take you days to just figure out and build a whole report. With AI, you can do that within a matter of minutes. Before we go any deeper, this is something I always share when I talk about AI. We should take a moment to recognize and acknowledge all the work that is done over the decades of open research, open source communities, papers, all of the machine learning AI data scientists and researchers that contribute to where we are today. This amazing journey, this accelerated field, and all the innovation that we have at our hands to go and build AI. So we all need to take that moment to acknowledge this work. I don't come from a PhD in machine learning and AI and data science, and I think it's really a great time to be a builder or a business leader at this time. Now, what I would love for you to get out of this presentation is understanding the ecosystem we live in, this new AI imperative era where, as business leaders, engineering leaders, product leaders, we're all asked and tasked to build AI solutions that are powerful, that are needle movers, that create new, enhanced, and kind of delightful experiences. But yet these experiences and AI in itself, still require focus on ethical implementation, on security, on privacy. You cannot just add AI or build AI in a vacuum. There is a whole ecosystem out there that you need to get to. So you need to balance these two different things, building something that is powerful, but still within boundaries of systems and compliance and regulation that are in place. The other thing is AI is complex by design. This is not a kind of a twist you add to your software, to your product, just saying you add AI to it, maybe one day, but so far AI is still complex to implement. And with that complexity come risk of really, losing on the ROI equation and really investing time and money and resources building AI, but not getting that outcome you expect at the end. So the risk is still there, and that leads to really, planning it becomes more and more important to these kind of implementations. And this is where, in general, frameworks that will help you really get a vision and project yourself in the future and see all the different steps that lead to AI products and understand what are the gaps and how could you prevent them. Another thing we all think about AI most of the time as a tech innovation. It's just tech. It's just about tech implementation. But in fact, it requires way more than that. Collaboration across teams, across departments, involving people that maybe had never been involved in software development and product building before, like your ethical teams, your legal teams, and kind of building these collaboration streams and also bringing more expertise is also very important to the success of AI. Based on the experiences I have seen myself, one of the areas where we lose track on our success or our planned success for AI is also how our focus could be spread across many things, or maybe how we go by the hype of AI and how excited we are by the proof of concept we can see one or two people in our teams do, but then when you want to take that to production, like we face a ton of other obstacles and we get to know that it's not that easy. So really starting, in my opinion, we'll see this more later, like really have a clear focus, set realistic goals that can iterate on over time and improve, going to lead to hopefully success. So at the end, before we go any further, the whole idea here is that AI is not just tech, it's people, it's process, it's tech, and you should have some frameworks. You should have a kind of a North Star you're aiming for, but you should also have a playbook to how you get that to succeed. And this is what I will be sharing with you in this. For me, based on my experience building AI, I think I find it very important that we need to combine some frameworks. Some we created in-house, but some we leverage and use from other sources. And it's all still on the foundation of you need to improve your processes, you need to look into your people and understand, create good dynamics of collaboration and expertise, but also you need to really look into a technology, understand what is AI, where it's going, what capabilities it has. And based on these two, we go deeper into the two frameworks that were foundational for the work we do at BetterWorks in my own journey as an engineering leader, a Flywheel Framework. This framework is by design like a full cycle framework. And you need to all understand that AI is not a one-time project or one delivery project. It's like a whole journey. So as you start building AI, you need to get into the habit of really planning for AI, building and deploying and running this AI implementation, and then optimizing, going back into the planning phase to understand what comes next and how can you take it to the next level. Another framework I will be presenting later was really key to at least for me and my team to understand how we deploy AI successfully is the AI maturity framework. And this is like a two-dimensional framework where you need to know and understand how can you make more and more sophisticated AI over time, how can you make it, leverage all these great technologies from, we start with LLM or chatbots, and now with agents and MCP and all of these great technologies. So, where you start and how far you go and what kind of things you need to watch on the news and the new technologies that you need to bring to your software engineering team or your business in general. And on the other axis is how responsible this AI should be. It's very hard to just bring AI, plug it in, and expect, the desired outcome you have in mind. This could go sideways. This go towards things that you were not expecting for or planning for. And these are some of the gaps AI has today that you need to be aware of and working towards building a responsible AI. Talking about the Flywheel Framework, it's based on these 4 pillars I was saying earlier, and it's very important to go in this again and again. Planning is all about setting, the resources, the processes, the technology that you need to kind of start thinking about. Who are the people who might be helpful into creating these specific goals and create that focus on building the right AI. This is where it gets more technical, and this is where some of the decisions you make here will define the rest of your journey. What technologies are we picking? What architecture? What models? What techniques? This is where my job as a head of engineering or an engineering leader is very key, because this is where I contribute the most and kind of build the vision to how we do AI. Running is also a big part of my day job, is deploy these solutions, run them, look at them, and understand and collect all the data about their performance and observe everything that is running so you can go into the optimized phase with all the tools and all the data you need to go get better, to improve it, to optimize it, to save on cost, but also to deliver better and better experiences over time. The planning phase, again, when you think about people, process, technology, the planning phase, based on our experience, was also built on 4 different pillars. The first one, and I talked about this earlier, focus. I think AI is amazing. Like, there are a million use cases out there that are just so interesting. But when you think about building AI in your product, in your software, or in the services you do to your customers, you need to stay focused. You need to prioritize their needs, not yours. You don't need to build AI for yourself. You really need to understand your personas who are using your software. How would they leverage AI? Think about that kind of smaller scope feature, but that will have a high impact in terms of how this will change the user experience at the end of the day. And that's what I did. We really started small. We looked at these areas where we know AI, we understood AI. It has like a great capability at extracting tests, summarizing, rephrasing, finding, tweaking things, and we leverage that to really enhance the experience of our customers. I talked about collaboration. This is like pillar, and we start this early on when we start doing planning, because especially in a SaaS software serving global customers, you have consideration to take into account: legal, ethical, all the compliance, the EU AI Act, and all of these things. You cannot just design AI and then start facing all these problems later. You need to proactively think about them and design towards them. Data. I think if I have to kind of delete all my deck and just keep data, data is the key. AI is just nothing other than a tool, which is amazing and innovative. But as other panelists earlier and speakers were talking about, it's all about the data you have. It's all about the readiness of the data. You cannot just also plug AI on top of random data you have, structures you have. You really need to understand what you have, how can you work with your team to build the data that your AI will need, and then understand the output of that AI and also get it back into the system and get to the next level of exploring these connected experiences. So working on the readiness of the data, the quality, the governance, and the compliance you have to consider. If you take Betterworks as an example, HR tech, we have many, many constraints about how we use the data. We cannot train models based on any production data. There are a lot of limitations we need to do. We have a lot of PIIs and things we need to take into consideration before we just plug AI. And then last but not least, expertise. AI is moving really fast. You need to invest in learning. You need to really build a team that can learn fast and continuously learning, but also a team that should not be overwhelmed with the pace of innovation. Like, there is something new coming up every day. You need to have a team that can stay focused and be aware, but not overwhelmed. And once we did that kind of planning phase, or like at the end of that planning phase, we really, the digest of that was like very specific. Our council, internal council, and working with our customers, we created very good examples that we wanted to build AI for. And then we started testing towards these hypotheses and see if this is exactly what, again, will be slow or small in scope, high in impact. And then we start training our customers, our users, our developers toward, a proper understanding of how AI works. And I will go later into, what makes a responsible AI and how we delivered on that. Building, again, this is going back to what I do on a daily basis. Building is what I spent most of my time with my team, understanding, how we build this. This slide evolves over time. I mean, there are many new technologies out there on a daily basis, but at least, the two questions you ask is the how and the what. And mainly, the main question you have is, do we do generative AI or agentic AI? Do we understand, are we going to use off-the-shelf solution for AI, or build our own and self-hosted in our cloud services or on-prem? How these models work, what are their properties, what are their performance on specific tasks, what their performance from a technical perspective, how fast they can go and how fast they can deliver the desired outcomes. And also one thing that we always miss sometimes is like what languages we support. In a SaaS global enterprise software, you serve like customers all over the world. You need to support as many languages as possible, and you're required. This is not like a good to have. So you cannot afford to build AI for some of your customers, but not all of them. So doing this analysis at this phase is important. You don't want to build AI and then go to your executive leadership team or your customers say, sorry, we don't support your language. That doesn't work. I'll go deeper into these analysis, but definitely for us, it was mainly about like, do we go open source or proprietary? Do we go off the shelf or build our own? And the answer is like, we kind of did all of this. We iterated on what is faster to get there, but then what is more reasonable, sophisticated, responsible for us to do in our implementation. And you will see very specific examples to highlight that. The building phase, this is like the first, no-brainer design. Like, I have my organization service, I have my technology already. Like, we should not understand that AI is built on existing ecosystems, existing software, existing teams. When you want to bring AI, or you are asked from your C-suite or board to just build AI and make it, come up with something, you cannot just build it in the vacuum. You're going to build it on top of your services. So the easiest implementation here is have one feature built for one of your services and say, okay, For BetterWorks, as an example, we'll see this in a minute, like help me summarize the feedback that someone received in my org. And that will go through all of the feedback they received and give you just the gist of it, and then you can go deeper into one of these areas. Remember this slide because later I will show how our iterative approach is leading to more sophisticated AI over time, but this is like what a no-brainer approach would be. So the examples of what we deployed, what we ended up running, is the following. Like we took very specific examples, but they were so high in impact. Going back to the example of like the feedback summary assist, like managers sometimes they have tens to hundreds of employees in their orgs. If they want to do performance reviews, if they want to go and review the feedback that these employees are receiving, this might take a long time. They need to work with assistants and build teams to just review this once a year, twice a year, maybe more, and collect all that data. So now with one of the key features of LLMs, at least in generative AI, which is really extracting data and summarizing and building a high-level understanding of like a big kind of a corpus of data, this, from an implementation perspective, was very small scope for us. But from an impact, at the end of the day result, this changed our customers' life, especially managers and people and HR admins and all of these. The other two examples was a feedback writing assistant example. When you are about to give feedback in an organization, there are many things you need to take into consideration, your bias, the tone, how professional it is, how actionable it is. And using and leveraging AI, we have been able, again, with a very low investment, build a feature that will help you really get better feedback over time. And one of the things I will talk about more later is like every time we execute AI on top of any of the content we have, we share very clearly transparency and explainability. We explain what happened and why for you to learn. The purpose of AI, our AI implementation, is not to just save you time so you don't have to, it becomes like an autopilot mode. It's a co-pilot mode. So we will support you, but one of the purposes is for you to learn. As a manager, as an admin, as an individual working for a company, you learn from these tools. You just don't use them. You don't put your brain on the side and you use AI. No, the purpose is for you to understand. And the other purpose is obviously to make it very clear and transparent to you what AI is doing. If you don't like it, don't use it. But definitely the purpose here is to make it better user experience. If you remember earlier slide, I mean, this is more technical than maybe other slides. We had just, call OpenAI ChatGPT, right? That's great. But in HR tech, we have, again, B2B SaaS. You cannot just send customers' data to the cloud, to third-party vendors. No matter how level, of enterprise contracts you have with them. They will do 0-day retention of the data. They will not do any training with that data, but that's not enough for our customers. So, the trust that you need to, the level of trust and education you need to build on your customer side is so high. So what we decide to do is build, bring AI into our service, bring AI into our cloud solution. So that's where we start self-hosting LLMs using and leveraging open source technologies. There are other options, obviously, but this one for us was a no-brainer. And then we start adding more and more features, and we'll see this in the optimize. This is like the beginning of the optimize, but they will see the AI maturity framework on how you optimize your AI technology to go more sophisticated, more responsible. But we definitely added, a layer, an abstraction layer, the generative AI service that takes onto everything. We added guardrails and safeguards to make sure, the AI cannot be jailbroken, or you cannot just do prompt injection. And how can you remove bias and remove, violent content and all of that? We do data pre-processing, and we added vector DB or graph DBs just so we structured the data differently for AI. We're really building things for AI. We added retrieval systems so we can go deeper into a huge amount of data and bring it to the surface for other features. We added evaluation because we wanted to make sure as we build AI is not drifting, is not getting worse, or from the beginning is doing what it needs to be doing. The one other thing, as we change and use different models, we want to make sure as we offer all different models or migrate to another one, the performance keeps getting better. So having evaluations in the loop of this is important. And then having fine-tuning. It's very hard to achieve fine-tuning in a heavy, sensitive, kind of data space. So, you need to figure out the right techniques to do it the right way without breaking any of your the trust we have got with your customers. If there is one slide to keep in mind, if you leave this meeting, this session is this one. This is the AI maturity framework inspired by the work of Dr. Ali Arsanjani at Google, Director of Engineering at Google, Machine Learning and AI. I prefer not to do this with animation, but the idea is like you start with level 0. If you look, it's just an off-the-shelf LLM, a simple prompt, data preprocessing. That's all you need to get into building generative AI. And then as you kind of validate that, as you build more maturity and more trust and more confidence into your solution, you add more. Maybe you do more prompts engineering. We really tweak these prompts to get better. You do more retrieval from the data. And then level 2, now you decide to self-host, maybe because, again, in our case, it was a compliance-heavy space, so we need to self-host so nothing goes outside of our service. It might be a different design for you for this maturity framework, but at least building a vision of where we are today and how high you go. And as you can see, the y-axis here is about sophisticated data, security, and privacy. This will make your implementation, you can see on the top there are like agentic AI, advanced large language model operations, chain of thoughts. I'm not sure we are at level 6, and it can go higher than that as AI is moving really fast. But we know what we're doing. We know what's next. We are aware, but not overwhelmed. And then on the x-axis, we are building towards responsible AI. The more things you add, more safeguards, more fine-tuning, more guardrails. The whole idea here is to prevent AI from just being that kind of a gimmick, but it's, bring in really value and while staying within the boundaries of what responsible AI is. Talking about responsible AI, very high-level summary, because I think we didn't think about this early on, but we felt like over time as we're building AI, the number of questions we get from our customers about this is way more than the technical aspects and like the features. They want to understand how responsible your AI is, and I want to talk about these pillars very quickly. The number one thing for us was transparency. Building our privacy policy for AI, terms of conditions, explaining and being transparent about the technologies, the stack, the flows. All this is important, especially in B2B. You cannot go around this. Otherwise, your opt-in rate will be close to 0. No customer will say, okay, let's turn on AI on your end if they don't understand that they don't have that level of transparency and visibility into your framework and your application. The second is explainability. As I said, everything we explain it. We need to build that trust. We need to build that education. Otherwise, again, they might be used it once or twice, but they're not interested in using it more. They don't trust what's behind. They don't understand what's happening. And they might think that the output is not fit for them. Fairness, removing bias. I think it's obvious here, like when we build AI, we don't want to add it to save time, but then bring lower quality outputs and make it unfair, especially in HR. Like you need to make sure that this is not changing the tone, this is not taken over. You are still in control. You are still in the driver's seat as an end user. AI is just there to help you and support you and give you the insight you need. AI should be reliable. You should, once you have AI, it should work the same way all the time. Otherwise, there might be questions about how efficient it is, how reliable it is. If it doesn't work all the time the same way, this is not something I would use as a customer or as an end user. Privacy and safety, no-brainer here. One of the biggest concerns with AI, even from a technical perspective, is that when you plug AI, you might lose some of the controls you had in place. If you had like role-based access controls, who can see what? Like your manager can see your feedback, no one else. Sometimes, and we have seen this in the early days of AI, where you might go and have access to data that you didn't have access to before. And that is a big challenge. So safety and privacy is very important. Last but not least, I want to talk about data. Like we all think AI is all great, like all these LLMs and agents. But at the end of the day, it's all about the data. As you get more mature, sophisticated solution, you need to understand what the data that is being used in all of this system is coming from. So you understand this common data that ended up being used to train one model that you're using today. It's very important to understand this. We are asked by our customers what data was used to train the model you're using. If you think about Mistral, Llama, or any open source, or any proprietary model, like we are asked, how was that trained? So we need to understand that from a business. And then you have your enterprise data. Anything you do, if you do fine-tuning, if you do RAG, if you do in-context learning, understanding that data, its structure, its quality is so important. We do evaluations as well. We do use synthetic data to evaluate. So understanding that it's a data game, not necessarily AI game, I think can give you a lot of insights. And then what do you do with the generated output? Like AI will return to you summaries, improved feedback, new goals created. What do you do with that? What kind of level of control and privacy you have around these? And then all the guardrails, all the user data, every input from the user, how do you deal with that? So understanding this and really building a framework that helps you kind of get into the visibility on this flow is very important. Last slide. I think the lesson learned here and what I want you all to get is incremental approach is important. Start small, but focus on impact. Focus on your end users, not your hype with AI. Avoid over complexity early on, like really build simple things and make, go use this AI maturity framework. Stay informed with AI, moving crazy fast. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't try to catch what is the newest, latest thing. Maintain control of the data. Don't pull AI in and kind of loosen up all these tighten ends because it's very important. They're going to get you in trouble. Cost is very important, resources. ROI, understanding how much you get out of these. Otherwise, it's maybe not worth it. If you just, a label you'll have powered by AI, but at the end of the day, you're not making any money out of this, not creating new value out of this, that's maybe not worth it. Prioritize privacy, security, and keeping controls in place was a great lesson. And then evaluate. AI is moving really fast. You have incentives to go and use newer models, cheaper, faster, more optimized. But sometimes, we need to keep up with evaluating because things might not work the same way you expect for your task. So that was my session. I hope you got some value out of this. I would love to get any questions from any of you and also connect on LinkedIn.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
You already alluded to, based on your key takeaways, could you share a little bit more on the key metrics that you use to measure the success or the ROI?
Yeah, so the question is about ROI and measuring success. So definitely ROI is still one of the biggest challenges in AI implementations. A lot of businesses and leaders are just building AI because they need to catch up with the market, because they need to be competitive. For us, our measurement is on two areas. One is the usage. Are we seeing more kind of adoption of AI? Are we seeing more users picking up this kind of assistance summaries and use them and apply them in their applications? So we have metrics to track that. We also have business metrics. We need to see how many new customers we're signing, where AI was a key factor to make the decision or closing the deal. And we have other metrics we track on the business side of things, on marketing as an example. We are involved in many other kind of ways to connect with our customers and leverage AI as a feature. So it's kind of a lot of metrics from all different areas. For me, from an engineering and product perspective, is the adoption metrics. That is more important to anything else. And in the B2B and SaaS, it's very hard to map these towards dollar amounts. It's more about retention, adoption, and efficiency. So that's why we created more evaluations and created more ways to give feedback about the AI, so we can learn from that and improve and increase these metrics.
Hi, thanks. Excellent presentation. Question is, what prompted your organization to get into the AI software development? And the second one is, what are the timelines for adoption in terms of, and how large, what's the type of organizations that use BetterWorks?
Sure.
Thanks.
Two very good questions. So the first one, what prompted this is definitely the market. I think when AI, kind of ChatGPT came up, it took the market by storm, and everyone was like, okay, AI, this new capability, right? More things you can do with AI. And so that was the first trigger for us to sit down and see, okay, what can we do with this? Is there any value for us to do this? Does that add any competitive advantage? Especially in a space that moves fast, HR tech, space where there's a lot of risk. If you do the wrong thing, you might end up really in a bad spot. So when we had that, we started again going into that kind of planning phase, getting people from product, from engineering. Anyone in the company could contribute with ideas on how to leverage AI. So we created that council. We reached out to our customers and said, hey, we're looking into building AI features. What are the things that you are interested in seeing? And we get these two together to get an initial plan of we think AI can bring to the surface a lot of ways to optimize for managers' efficiency, save time to a lot of end users, and bring in actionable insights. This is because this is already one of the already known gaps in HR tech. There's a gold mine of data, but the insights are missing. You can build these kind of BI dashboards, you can do a lot of things, but it's really hard to navigate for end users, especially leaders and admins. But using AI, you can go deeper and bring a lot of things to the surface. So that's what triggered this. In terms of adoption, I would say when we start building AI, in the lowest, level 0 AI, the opt-in rate was very low because first, concerns about AI, responsibility and ethical advantage and all of that, ethical implementation. Concerns about third-party, integration like OpenAI and others. The space was moving so fast, and we're talking about hundreds of thousands of employee companies, global companies. It's very hard for them to just sign on like a new implementation that might take a risk. And then add all the governance compliance space, like the EU AI Act was one thing. We have a lot of customers in Europe, and you have a lot of limitation in this kind of act where you cannot just build AI that will take over decisions. You cannot build AI. That's where you heard fewer agents words, because we think agents will bring a lot of autonomous decision making, and in HR tech we want to stay away from that. We're leveraging agents to a certain degree, but not to the degree where it's like autopilot. AI will decide who's going to be promoted or not. We're not there yet, and we don't want to be there. So adoption is like slow in these big companies, and they've taken their time. But at the end of the day, we have a reasonable, decent opt-in rate, and we keep improving, optimizing, and innovating in the space. The other thing is definitely competitive advantage. We want to be one of the early ones that are adopting AI responsibly, giving these end users a lot of advantage compared to using other tools.
We can have one more question, last one. And after that, if you guys still have questions, feel free to reach out with Maher.
Yeah, I'll wait outside.
Thanks, Maher.
Sure.
Excellent session. You partially answered one of the questions that I was about to ask about agentic AI. I think you already explained that. Second part was interesting use cases. Was there any feedback from customer which you had not, which was like they blew their mind and something that you didn't expect? I just wanted to hear anything exceptional that you heard based on the use cases that were implemented.
Was the question about like, did anything like really impress our customers, or
yeah,
the
something
opposite?
that you had not initially factored as a benefit came across as something, which the customer noticed and gave you some feedback?
To be very honest, I think when we do demos and when we explain this, we most of the time impress the customers. Because again, based on our Flywheel framework, we worked a lot on planning and understanding the personas, and we put ourselves in the shoes of these end users. If you're a manager, you have a lot of people, you want to do this kind of annual or mid-annual review, it's going to take a long time. You'll be like unhappy with the process. And when we demo the capabilities of AI in these verticals, again, just performance management or just goals or calibration, they were just, oh, this is all I need. So we really tailored our implementation to them. And then over time, as we build more maturity and understanding and sophistication of the system, we start building horizontal features. Like you're a manager, you hired someone new, like create a whole program for me for the next 6 months with them. How many sessions and one-on-ones I need to set up? What kind of learnings they need to do? What kind of vision or succession planning we need to have for this person to evolve and be promoted? So building, again, our focus on understanding our end users and personas and building AI that is, again, smaller in scope, but scaling over time was very efficient. And yeah, definitely I don't join a lot of demos and sessions with customers, but when I do, most of the time they're really impressed. Thank you.
Okay, it's time for lunch.
Yeah.
And
well, thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
I'll be
our
outside.
speaker. Yeah.
Thank you.